And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. This hat is not willing to work with me. All right, there we go. So, as you guys can obviously tell, we're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys because I got my cowboy hat and that's what I do every single time that the Cowboys do something bad or are in the process of doing something bad. I always wear this hat. So, that's what we're going to do. In this third segment, we're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys and how, well, there is a head coaching update, but there is also an interesting stat that I would like to bring up. So, the Dallas Cowboys, now, they have the longest streak in the NFL without making a conference championship game. The longest streak. And the biggest reason why they have this streak is mainly because it's actually entirely because the Washington Commanders, after struggling to come up with a name for themselves and after struggling to come up with a new name for the franchise, they've been able to lead their team with this incredible quarterback all the way to the NFC Championship game, where unfortunately they have to play the Eagles. Now, in that game, I really do not want either team to win. I honestly hope that it ends in a tie, so that way neither of those teams make the Super Bowl, because it would hurt me, especially, I think it would hurt me more if the Eagles made the Super Bowl, more so than the Commanders did, but still, both of them would hurt me a lot, because the Commanders, like 2 seasons ago, they were basically, not even 2 seasons ago, last season, the season before that, and the season before that, they were basically the one team in the entire NFC East that the Giants were able to beat rather comfortably. It didn't matter what Washington's record was, it didn't matter what the Giants' record was, they would always beat them. And now the roles have completely changed, and I am left very, very sad. But we're not talking about the Giants. We're talking about the Cowboys and how they have not made an NFC Championship game. Also, fun fact, since 2010, every single NFC East team has made it to the NFC Championship game except for Dallas. Like, that is a crazy stat to really think about. And when you think about all of the opportunities that the Dallas Cowboys really legitimately have had to make it all the way to the NFC Championship games, like, it's unbelievable how, well, actually, it's very believable how they haven't, but it's amazing how consistent this is and how often they do this. It's every single time, whether it's because Mike McCarthy's the coach, whether it's because you have Tony Romo at quarterback or Dak Prescott at quarterback, it's the same story for them every single year, and it's unbelievable. And really, I mean, it obviously didn't start with this play right here, but it sort of enforced the notion, at least from my opinion, that the Cowboys and Dak Prescott are never going to make the NFC Championship game. They're never going to do anything in their careers, and they're never going to make it to the Super Bowl ever in the entire franchise's conviction, at least when you have Dak Prescott as your quarterback. I'm sorry to say this. Actually, no, I'm not sorry to say this, but Dak Prescott is simply not that guy. The fact that he is the most paid quarterback in all of the NFL right now is unbelievable to me. And the fact that you can be one of the most paid quarterbacks in the NFL despite not even making an NFC or an AFC championship game is kind of inexcusable, in my opinion. Like, you know, we talk about Josh Allen, we talk about Patrick Mahomes, we talk about Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, all of those teams and all of those quarterbacks making the big bucks, and Brock Purdy in line of making a lot of money as well. Those guys, they made it to championship games. Like, they've made it to NFC or AFC championship games. Jalen Hurts getting paid the big bucks. He's made an NFC championship game before. Like, and he's made it again this year. All of these quarterbacks, they've made it to their championship games within their respective conference, except for Dak Prescott. It's unbelievable. Like, it's unbelievable for me to think about. And like I said, with the opportunities, they've had chances to beat San Fran a couple of times, but then Dak Prescott decides to slide, or Dak Prescott decides to throw an interception. And where it really fell apart, at least in my opinion, was in their last year's matchup against the Packers, where they were clear-cut favorites, and no other team in the history of football at that point lost to the 7th seed in the wild card. That hasn't happened. That did not happen up until that game. And it's unbelievable for me to think about, because it's like, that is a crazy stat. I mean, being the second seed and losing in the wild card round to a 7th seeded team is unbelievable. And if you look at the score, you might think, oh, it was a really close game. It was not a close game. Dak Prescott did historic garbage time stat padding, and the game was really over after the first half when the Packers were up by 28 points, I think. It was a lot of points that they were up by because, of course, Dallas is going to Dallas. And speaking of Dallasing, now they have to sort of look for a new head coach since they got rid of Mike McCarthy, who I feel, I'm very sorry for Mike McCarthy losing his job, honestly. Like, I feel like he was the best coach for the Dallas Cowboys. He always ensured that Dallas would lose before the divisional round and would never, ever win an important playoff game. Important playoff game for them is divisional and championship game that takes them to the Super Bowl, which they haven't done since... How long ago was it? I don't know. I wasn't even born when they did that. Heck, I wasn't even conceived when they won the championship. The Super Bowl. Similar to how most of their fans weren't even conceived when they won the Super Bowl. Yet they think they make it every single year. It's unbelievable. But regardless, one of their coaches, that's expected to be the new head coach for the Dallas Cowboys is Brian Schottenheimer. Now, Brian Schottenheimer has never had a head coaching role in his entire career. He was mainly an offensive coordinator, and he's all of a sudden been the favorite for the next Cowboys head coach, at least according to those betting odds. Obviously, Dallas is still in search for a new head coach. But Schottenheimer has been on the Cowboys staff for the last 3 seasons, and the last 2 as offensive coordinator. And the Cowboys owner, Jerry Jones, has always put a priority on coaches that he is familiar with, so there is a good chance that he could end up being their head coach. It would be a surprising hire and likely not a very popular one amongst Cowboys fans, which is why I'm wearing this hat, also to make fun of the Cowboys in the postseason. But it's not entirely sure if this is really the coach that you sort of want. And he's never been a head coach. And it's similar to the issues that the Lakers were having with hiring JJ Redick as their new head coach. The biggest problem for JJ Redick was that he has never had a head coaching experience in his entire life. And that was a little bit skeptical. And there's reason for skepticism. You have no idea how they're going to translate into the big leagues. And as a coach working on a very competent organization. Now, the past 2 seasons, he was Dallas's offensive coordinator, but Mike McCarthy would always be the one that would call the plays. So whether or not Schottenheimer is going to be better than Mike McCarthy it's still rather unclear. But just because the betting market is moving towards Schottenheimer isn't necessarily proof that he will get the job. And NFL draft market's odds makers don't necessarily have all that much inside information, so just take that with a grain of salt. I'm just giving this update just to let you guys know who exactly is on the table for Dallas and who Dallas might end up considering. So with that said, that's all that I also mentioned Deion Sanders in a previous segment before that, and also the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles as being a possible candidate for the position of the Cowboys head coach. But again, it's still up in the air. I have no idea what Dallas is going to do. But regardless, what they do won't change anything. They're still going to lose before the divisional round, and they're still not going to make the Super Bowl. It's that simple. But with that being said, that's all that I have in this 3rd segment. I think we've had enough fun making fun of the Dallas Cowboys. So now we're going to go into the 4th segment where I recap all of the NBA games that happened over the weekend. And I'm probably going to do that a lot quicker than normal just to be mindful of time and when I have class. So I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.